Hello, everybody. This is Brett, and today is January 7th, 2018. And today, Jörg Glissman is going to be joining me for another reading of the book Codeword Barbelon 666 Danger in the Vatican. And today, Jörg, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. All right. So I'm ready for another reading. And how about you?
Absolutely. I'm pumped up. I want to really get into this book because, when we were on the Bible study, Sabbath, last night, with Tom, we mentioned to Tom Fress that we are doing a reading of this book, and he said, "Oh, wow, that's wonderful that you do that." And I said, "Yeah, I would appreciate it if you ever had the time to watch at least one or two videos of this series." But
Yeah.
Tom has so many other things to do, and so I can understand that he
Sure.
cannot take the time. But his opinion on how we are doing this reading would be quite of value to me and probably to you also,
Sure.
Brett.
Absolutely.
Because as far
Yep.
as I understand it, Tom said that he read the book in the past too.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't come to that in the archives because I haven't been driving a lot around with my car lately, so I didn't listen to the archives. This
Mm-hmm.
week I'm gonna be a little bit more busy on the road again, so from tomorrow afternoon on. So then I probably will have time to listen again to the archives of Tom Fress in 2010, where he reads The Ark and the Dove, of which I am still very much under the impression how the reading of Rulers of Evil on the one hand, and then the knowledge you gain from the Ark and the Dove on the other hand works together. And
Mm.
there's this book that some time ago I got. I don't know, Brett, if I even. Yeah, I probably told you
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, how can you say sure when you don't know what I'm talking about?
Well, you told me about it, so I'll
Probably.
probably remember.
The book, The American Jesuits.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right, from Run to Christ.
Yeah. He gave that link to me. It's from Raymond A.
That's right.
Swarth, who is a
Mm-hmm.
member of the Society of Jesus. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a book completely written by Jesuits. I can
Okay.
assure you, it's from 2007. So that's just a little later when Francis Rooney came out with his Global Vatican. Interesting to see that. The book is dedicated to four different Jesuits who all lived between 1913 and 2002. They are all dead. And when
Mm.
you go to the acknowledgements, he writes about a page and a half only names of people who helped him. And they are all SJ, 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 SJ.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
Jesuits. And in
Yep.
this book, we deal in the beginning, because I read the first 60 some pages yet, we read about the beginning of the Jesuits, and then it comes to the Maryland tradition and the pioneers. And there he also actually confirms everything that I have learned so far by the reading of Tom Fress of The Ark and the Dove.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I gotta tune into that too and check that out. I'm gonna do that at some point, and I haven't yet,
You know, The Ark,
but I plan to.
The Ark and the Dove, written by Amos Ives, is a book that
Mm.
is written by a Roman Catholic, and this book, The American Jesuits, is written by a Jesuit, and probably even four Jesuits. So the knowledge that you get out of that is very, very interesting, and the way that he
Mm-hmm.
speaks about this quote-unquote martyrs, of course. I mean, we know that in the biblical sense, the Jesuits and the Roman Catholics are no martyrs. Huh? But
Mm-hmm.
of course, he speaks about that, and that's quite interesting to learn. Also, quite interesting to learn a little bit more about Andrew White, who came over with the Ark in 1634,
Oh, yes.
and who is the
Yes.
name giver of the White House. So
Mm-hmm.
I can only advise people to get that book, and you can, of course, put the link of the book in the description box of this video, American Jesuits.
Oh, yes, that's right. Great. I'll do
Because
that in the notes.
I think you have it, huh?
Yeah.
So then you can put the link in there, then people can download that book and make up their own mind, because it is also very interesting to hear the history out of the mouth of the horse himself.
Yes, that's right.
And of course, when you are not studied in history and when you are not steadfast in the Bible, and you read a book like The Ark and the Dove, and surely a book like The American Jesuits, then you will get very easily betrayed. So you have to have done your homework, of course. But the point that I want to make is, and that is also why we are reading Codeword Barbelon now, when you have done your studies and you read different books on the subject, like Rulers of Evil, like Romanism and the Reformation, like a Babylon Mystery Religion, or the two Babylons, and stuff like that, and even the Ark and the Dove, or listened to Tom reading the Ark and the Dove, you can so much fill in the gaps and make of all these little splintered parts a mosaic that all becomes all of a sudden a picture that forms in front of your face. And it is not that you get the understanding that you will like what you are going to understand. And this, my dear listener and viewer of this video, is the same with the book Codeword Barbelon. There are many things probably in this book that you don't like to hear, but still the truth stays the truth. Whether you like it or not does not change it. And being ignorant to the truth won't help you. I just want the truth. I don't care how bad it is, as long as it is the truth. That is the only thing that counts for me. And I know that I have been raised in this system that is lying to me from the day that I was born, and to my parents also. And they lie to me knowingly or unknowingly, wittingly or unwittingly. And since I found the truth that is in Jesus Christ, because the Father drew me to Him, I am so satisfied with learning and learning and learning the truth, and there are some things that even hurt me.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I'm a German, and we have had this Iron Chancellor, Bismarck, in the Second Reich between 1871 and 1918. He wasn't that time German Chancellor, but he founded that Reich. He had the culture Kampf, or the culture struggle with the Pope in the beginning years of his reign. But eventually he was defeated by the Pope, and he was the one who introduced the social security system in Germany. So he is one of the biggest sellouts. But on the other hand, he was the founder of a Protestant Reich, because the first German Reich, the 1000-year Reich between 800 and 1800 something, that lasted until the end of the Napoleonic Wars, was the German, the Holy Roman Empire of German nation. Yeah, that was a that was a Holy Roman Empire on German nation for 1000 years. That was the first Reich. And we have the Second Reich after all the struggles that came with Napoleon and all that stuff. At the time of 1870, and that went down with the end of World War I, when we got this Weimar Republic, and then of course came what everybody knows, the Third Reich in 1933 with Adolf Hitler. So we have had a Catholic Reich, we have had a Protestant Reich, and then we have had a Jesuit Reich, because the Third Reich, I don't even like to call it Catholic, I even like to call it Jesuit, because Hitler was Jesuit controlled, Van Papen, the man behind him, was a Knight of Malta, was Jesuit controlled. You have Eugenio Pacelli, who was the papal nuncio between 1917 and 1929, the years all leading up to Hitler's takeover in 1933. The very first thing he did was signing in July 1933 the Concordat with the Vatican. So I really like to refer to Germany, the Nazi years, as the Jesuit Empire.
Oh man, so what on earth do you call signing of the Concordat with Ronald Reagan. You know, I was just listening to one of your uploads on your second channel today, Jörg, from Bill Hughes. And, you know, I agree with you, you know, for the most part, you know, some of the things that Bill Hughes will preach about this Ellen White is, you know, it's not what I would consider doctrine, but if we put that aside and just listen to what he says historically, it's just so spot on. And I was listening to that this morning, and I was just thinking, yeah, well, and now you bring this up. So
my point, Brett, that I wanted to make is that the listener here and there will listen to things in our recordings of reading the book Codeword and Barbelon which he doesn't like, but it is not about liking or disliking. It's just that you get to know the truth, and by that you can even know your history. And on the other hand, this maybe it helps to put a little diversion between you and your patriotism. That you will finally understand there is absolutely no need to feel any patriotic feeling whatsoever to this Antichrist's earthly system, but to feel all patriotic to the kingdom of God, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that is coming down from heaven, at the last trump, and when we all will meet him in the air, whether we are dead and be partakers of the first resurrection, or we are alive and being changed in an instant, and then we will go up and meet him in the air, and his new Jerusalem that will come down. That is something that I want to be patriotic for. And what we learn about in this book, the Codeword Barbelon, on the Jesuits, is that the Jesuits are not patriotic to any country that they live in. They are so indoctrinated to be obedient as a cadaver, as a dead body, to be the stick in the hands of an old man who can use it for any purpose that he wants to, and the only allegiance they pay is to their order. It is not even to Rome, as is most of the time even written in all these books that we read. The Jesuits don't have an allegiance to the white pope. They have an allegiance to the black pope and to their order. Their superior, whatever he tells them, that is what they do. So they serve in United States of America, they serve in Belgium where I live, they serve in Germany where I come from, they serve everywhere. And they are sitting in high places, in positions in politics, that you assume that those people are patriotic because, you know, they lead this country. But then it comes back to this one statement that was made by, I think his name was Oberst Beck. I don't remember his name right now. But he was a Polish Minister of Defense in the beginning years before the Second World War broke out, and in the beginning of the Second World War. And he said that he too late understood that the foreign policy of Poland was not in favor of Poland and the citizens of Poland, the Poles, but that it was only in favor of the Roman Catholic Church. That's what he says, and that is a statement that you can that you will probably hear me doing when you follow the reading of The Secret History of the Jesuits by Edmond Paris, because that's where it comes from. So I just want to say, because I love the American people, I love every people, you know. I love the Americans. I love the Americans too, and the Americans are so betrayed because of this patriotism. I mean, you get that shoved down your throat day in and day out, especially with all the events like Super Bowl and American.
Well, that's really interesting you bring that up, Jörg. Yeah? And I got to make a comment when you get a minute.
Yeah, and American Idol and all that stuff that they show on the television. And our troops, you know, when lately I was watching this television series, Hell's Kitchen again, from Gordon Ramsay. which I sometimes use just to watch in the night before I go to sleep, because then I'm watching something I don't have to think about. I'm just getting entertained to drive my hardcore a little bit, my heart desk a little bit down, to get a little bit rest. And there they cook all of a sudden for a returning soldier who has served the last 1.5 years in Iraq, and everybody jumps up and they are all this, and this man is doing this for us and wonderful and great, and they don't understand that the American military is abused by the Antichrist of the Bible, by the Pope of Rome, to do his bidding and to fight his wars. And it is just a shame that the people are so betrayed. Now, when we come to the book reading today, I hope we will start within a minute. I think a lot of people are sitting on the tip of their chairs. When is this guy finally starting reading what I want to hear? We will go to on the virtues of lying under oath, which is a very important subject of the book, because the Bible has something to say about swearing, and of course we know that all these secret societies say something about swearing. But we come up to chapter 7, so we are now in chapter 5, then we go into chapter 6, and then comes chapter 7, and that is the extreme oath. And that is so important. I did a video on that in the end of 2014, when I was just starting this video work in the time with Michael Adams, and we did on Nothing But the Truth a wonderful 3-hour broadcast on the extreme oath of the Jesuits, and I advise everybody to have a look at it if they haven't seen that yet. It's in the playlist Nothing But the Truth on my channel. But we will go into that oath also here, and that is very interesting, and there you will learn a lot from. So, Brett, you wanted to say something, and I want to let you have your say.
Yeah, but I don't know if I should turn this into another hour-long discussion, because I'm afraid that might happen.
I don't know.
With this comment, because I was just thinking, you bring up the First Reich, the Second Reich, the Third Reich, and now since the Third Reich, which you called the Jesuit Reich, right?
Yeah.
Brought about the signing of the Lateran Treaty, which you and I both know is the healing of this wound, the deadly wound in Revelation that was inflicted upon the papacy, the Antichrist. Yeah. And now that he's healed his wound, would it be fair to say that this concordat with Ronald Reagan could have something to do with the rising Fourth Reich?
Well, the point is that I haven't listened to the whole broadcast of Bill Hughes, this part 40, I think I uploaded.
No, neither have I. Neither have I. No, I listened to the beginning part.
Yeah,
but
I still have to finish it. I'm just half an hour in. It is called The Controlled Press and Ronald Reagan. I don't know if the Americans have a so-called concordat with Rome, because I think when you check sites like like Concordat Watch or all that stuff, I don't even know if you see a concordat between the United States and Rome. But it's with all these things the same thing. Judge them by their works. Judge them by their fruits. What are they doing? Do they have a concordat written or not? Doesn't matter. Look at their actions.
That's right. You're right, because they're not going to openly admit it.
No, it's like a Jesuit will never openly admit to the fourth vow and everything that is in there, but just look at his actions and you know that he does everything that says that is written in there.
Exactly.
It's the same. Exactly. It's the same what we dealt with in the past in reading this book. We were dealing about the constitutions.
Yes. Deny.
We were dealing about the constitutions. We were dealing about the Secreta Monita. It doesn't matter if these papers are real, and we proved that they are real, but it doesn't even matter because you can see on their actions that they are acting
all right
in that way.
That answers my question. So let's go ahead.
When we go back to Ronald Reagan, now let me please say this for a moment. Tom Frass some time ago on Inquisition Update said something about Ronald Reagan that I cut out of his program and made an own video from. And that video I uploaded on my, at least on my second channel, I don't know on my first, but at least on my second channel, Holy Father, I give you my country.
Oh, that's right. I remember this one. Sure.
That was a moment when Ronald Reagan met the Pope, and Tom found at that time, because that link is nowhere to be found anymore, so don't go even bother searching. But there are a lot of things that you cannot find today anymore that have all of a sudden gone. Like, for example, the email exchange between Tapasauce and Eric John Phelps is completely
I was thinking the
gone.
same thing.
Yeah, great minds
right.
think alike, they say, huh?
I saw that too. I did look that up. Yep.
So Tom Frass found a link at that time where it was written that at the visit of the Pope, Ronald Reagan knelt down and said to the Pope, Holy Father, I give you my country. And when you know biblical prophecy from Revelation 13 and you understand that the United States of America is the second beast and a mirror of the first that will give back the power to the first beast that it lost with the deadly appearing wound, then you know that this is true. I mean, you don't even need this, but it was a very powerful little video that I made of what Tom Frass said there. Holy Father, I give you my country. So I don't care about this concordat that Ronald Reagan signed or not signed or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't even care if he knelt before the Pope and said, Holy Father, I give you my country. From the actions of the United States from that time on, you see that it was that way. It is the same with the quote-unquote conspiracy that a lot of people think, that there was a secret sign that when all the Protestant churches are brought under the control of the Jesuits in the United States of America, they would have a secret sign for all the initiated in the world, and that is that an American president in the inauguration of his office will turn to the obelisk. And that is what Ronald Reagan in, I think, 1981 or whatever it was, did. He gave that secret sign. And that was at that time only 16 years after the ending of Vatican II. Today we are more than 50 years after Vatican II. Now, has anything changed in your pulpit, dear listener? Has anything changed in the church that you are going to? In the sense that, do they teach who the biblical, historical, and prophetic Antichrist is? I don't think so. By their deeds you will know them, and this is with this absolutely the same. But anyway, it was interesting that you brought that up. So.
All right, good. Great. Okay. I just had to because I was thinking, well, what do you think about this year? Because I've never, I did listen to that series you did with Walt years ago. That's really interesting too. The series on the Jesuits derooting the Reformation.
Ah, yeah. This seven broadcasts about 7 hours long. Yeah, they are not to be found on the internet anymore, eh?
Oh, they're not?
No.
Oh, I have them somewhere. I did download them, so I got them.
I think only 3 or 4 are still running, and the others, all the links are not running anymore.
They're taken down. Okay,
no, I don't know if they're taken down. I don't even say that Walt took them down or so, but it's the same that when you go to the archives of Nothing But the Truth from Michael Adams, these early broadcasts, you can't listen to them anymore, and with Hour of the Truth, it's the same. The old broadcasts are not on there anymore. Well, I have everything that I need backed up on my computer, so I don't need that. And the videos on YouTube that I made on that, I hope we will stay for a time. I mean, it depends on how much persecution I and my channel will get. But one thing we can be sure about, Brett, as long as we speak the truth, we will be sure of our persecution.
That's right.
Sorry, I had to cough that one. So, I think we are about half an hour in. It's about time to start, because there are probably a few people who say, when are you going to start reading? But on the other hand, I think the things that lead up to this reading are also important to talk about. And this is the way that Brett and I didn't plan it, because we are we are going along as we are making as we go along. Or how do you say that?
Yes.
We don't script this.
Improvisation.
Yeah, we don't
I guess
script
you would
this. We
call
come together on Skype and say we're going to do another reading, and then we start talking about things, and one thing leads to another, and eventually these are all things that are probably there, or at least we hope, to edify you and to give you more knowledge and a deeper understanding of the things that we are talking about. As I said before, when we put together this little puzzle and you go away and you see the bigger picture, and all of a sudden you see a picture forming from all these little pieces that didn't make sense when you watched them up close, piece by piece, but when you go back, you take a little distance, then all of a sudden a picture forms. And that is what you get when you read these different books, when you watch different kind of videos, when you listen to different kind of broadcasts on the internet, like First Amendment Radio, especially the broadcast there from Tom Fress from Inquisition Update, which I highly commend that you listen to, and I highly commend that you support, not because I am such a big fan of Nicholas Arthur and First Amendment Radio, but he provides the platform for Tom Fress and Inquisition Update, and that I am not only a fan for, I think this is absolutely necessary in these times that we have that. And the longer we have it, the better. But now I will turn to the book, start reading on page 65, because last time I left you waiting because I read, "Reader, I am speechless. Aren't you?" So maybe in the meantime, between the last upload and this next part of Codeword Barbelon, you found your speech back. And when you find your speech back, then I'm going to tell you how the book continues on the second half of page 65. It says, "On the virtues of lying under oath." And before I even start, sorry,
Yes, please.
I'm getting from one to another. Time ago, I read this book from Michael de Semlyen, "All Roads Lead to Rome." And it dealt at a certain moment with the coronation oath of the English crown.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And I found that what you can find on the internet as a PDF of the 1913 Roman Catholic Encyclopedia, it said something different than the printed version, because it took out the equivocation and the mental reservation. That was...
Oh, the newadvent.org, is that it?
That is the site that publishes the...
Supposedly has the 1913, yeah, that's right.
And when you go to that website, you will not read about equivocation and mental reservation, but you will read it when you got the printed version. And Brett has, I don't know how, he found a PDF version of the 1913 Catholic Encyclopedia, and there it is in also, but the one that you find on the internet, you won't find that. And that is very interesting, because we are speaking about...
It's hard to find that. You know how I found that, Jörg? No. It was actually for sale as a DVD with all 13 volumes or 15, I forget how many volumes, on eBay. $10. So I just ordered up a DVD, and it was all from Google, but actually try and go on Google and find the Catholic Encyclopedia from 1913. Just try it sometime. It's really hard. You'll find a volume here and a volume there, and that's all you're going to find. That's what I found. So, yeah, it was really nice to have that. So maybe I should think about putting that up somewhere online so people can have access to it.
Anyway, the point that I was making is we are speaking here in Codeword Barbelon now on the virtues of lying under oath. And we have to understand that the English at that time had an oath where there was no equivocation allowed, where there was no mental reservation allowed when they spoke their oath. This is today not the case anymore. Even since the starting of the 20th century, it is not the case anymore. They changed the oath so that these people don't even have to use mental reservation, but can live to the oath they take fully. But again, and maybe Brett, you can look that up in the meantime, because I don't know if P.D. Stewart deals with that. That you can look up in, I think it is Matthew 6 or 7, where it's about swearing, what the Bible does say about taking an oath. And in the meantime, I will start reading now, finally, excuse me, at the bottom of page 65 on the virtues of lying under oath in the book Codeword Barbelon, Danger in the Vatican, the Sons of Loyola and Their Plans for World Domination. The Jesuits have perfected the art of swearing falsely without sin, using what they call the rule of equivocation or mental reservation. Jesuit Father Stoss says in his Of the Tribunal of the Penitent, quote, "When a crime is secret, the culpability of the crime may be denied. It being understood publicly, i.e., when the crime is secret or not public, one can deny it." Unquote. As Pascal said in his doctrine, this doctrine is most useful when the Jesuits are in difficult circumstances. Quote, "For by it they can say one thing and mean another. Apply this ethical teaching to any case of crime or outrage, and how impossible to get witnesses to convict a criminal." Unquote. Now read what the learned Jesuit Gury says on that very score. Quote, "A man promised under oath to Marinus that he would never reveal a theft committed by the latter. But a man was called as a witness before the judge and revealed the secret after interrogation. He ought not to have revealed the theft, but he ought to have answered, quote, 'I do not know anything,' unquote, understanding in his mind to mean nothing that I am obligated to reveal by using a mental restriction or reservation. So a man has committed a grave sin against religion and justice, but revealing publicly before the court a confided secret." This is from Doctrine of the Jesuits, American edition by Professor Jean-Pierre Gury, and he is a member of the Society of Jesus. So again, we hear it from the horse's mouth itself. So is it a grave sin against religion and justice to tell the truth under oath? The teachings of Jesuit Dr. Sanchez on the virtues of committing perjury is still more plain. Quote, "A man may swear that he hath not done a thing, though he really have, by understanding, saying within himself that he did it not on such and such day, or before he was born, or by reflecting on some other circumstance of the like nature, and yet the words he shall make use of shall not have a sense implying any such thing, and this is a thing of great convenience on many occasions, and is always justifiable when it is necessary or advantageous in anything that concerns man's health, honor, or estate." Unquote. Filiotius confirms the above testimony. Now, who is Filiotius? It's going to be quite interesting to understand that, but I don't see in the footnote anything about it, so I'm just taking that name. Filiotius confirms the above testimony. In his Moral Questions, he asks, quote, "Is it wrong to use equivocation in swearing, i.e. under oath?" Unquote. He answers, quote, "It is not in itself a sin to use equivocation in swearing. This is the common doctrine of after Suarez." Unquote. "Is it perjury or sin to equivocate in a just cause?" He answers again, "It is not perjury. As, for example, in the case of a man who has outwardly made a promise without the intention of promising, if he is asked whether he has promised, he may deny it, meaning that he has not promised with a binding promise, and thus he may swear." As Reverend James Atkin Wiley says, quote, "What an admirable lesson in the art of speaking the truth to oneself and lying and swearing falsely to everybody else. from his history of Protestantism, of course within the chapters of the Jesuits, which we planned to read. Yeah? Book 2, Volume 2, Book 15. So that's the part of the Jesuits what Wiley wrote about, where this quotation is taken from. The learned Sanchez rejoins the controversy. Quote, if anyone, by himself or before others, whether under examination or by his own accord, for any purpose, should swear that he has not done something which he has really done, having in mind something else which he has not done, i.e., by thinking of something other than of what he is being questioned, or some way of doing it other than the way he employed, he does not lie, nor perjure himself, unquote. And quote-unquote Saint Liguori, the Catholic doctor, says, and Alphonsus Liguori is someone that you really have to know if you are reading books like these. A very important historical figure. Alphonsus de Liguori. He says, quote, a prisoner, when lawfully questioned, can deny a crime even with an oath, without grievous sin, if as the result of his confession he is threatened with punishment of death, or imprisonment, or perpetual exile, or the loss of all his property, or the galleys, or similar punishments, by secretly understanding that he has not committed any crime of such a degree that he is bound to confess. It is permissible to swear to anything which is false by adding in an undertone a true condition. If that low utterance can in any way be perceived by the other party, though its sense is not understood, i.e., by inserting in your oath certain words spoken to yourself but not audible to others, which entirely changes the sense of the oath. So, in plain words, you can swear whatever you want as long as you think of something else. That's the point. That's the point. It doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you think. So when your mouth says an oath, but you think of something else, then you can lie until you or somebody else becomes green. It doesn't matter. That is real equivocation or mental reservation. They can swear anything. It doesn't matter. Because the end justifies the means. According to the confession of one pope, quote, a lie told for the purpose of misleading the enemies of the church is not held or regarded as a lie by Almighty God. This is a doctrine maintained by more than 20 grave Jesuit doctors, Gaspar de Hurtado, Per Discastillos, Hurtado Mendoza, Sanchez, Escobar, and so on and so on. That, quote, there is no mortal sin in calumniating falsely to save one's reputation. I don't even go into this mortal sin stuff. I did this today when I was reading about the Waldenses in Henry Charles Lear's History on the Inquisition of the Middle Ages in German. I went into that about this differentiation between a mortal sin and another sin. And I said that from my biblical understanding, the transgression of the law is sin and the wager of sin is death. That makes all sin deadly or mortal. Yeah?
Yes.
But
sure
the
does.
Roman Catholic Church, of course, is very good in differentiating these things because they use mental reservation. In addition to these, Jesuit Father Emmanuel Sarr and Escobar advise us, quote, promises are not binding if, in making them, you have no intention of keeping them. Listen to this again. Emmanuel Sa and Escobar advise us, quote, promises are not binding if, in making them, you have no intention of keeping them. What does this do to marriage?
Oh, man.
You can stand there before the pastor, the priest, or the civil servant who is marrying you, and you can say whatever you want because you don't have the intention to keep them anyway. That is the policy of the Jesuits. If you have no intention of keeping the oath, well, say it anyway. It doesn't matter because A, you don't keep it anyway. Ridiculous.
Yes, it just reminds me of, when you read the word serpent, you can apply serpent to a fellow mankind if you want, because in this case, I think it applies, and the meaning to serpent here, the fourth one is figuratively a subtle or malicious person. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty subtle and malicious, wouldn't you, Jörg?
I absolutely agree, Brett. I absolutely agree.
But anyway, I've got that Matthew 5 on oaths.
Yeah, just wait a second. We're gonna finish about this, and then
anytime.
we're gonna finish our broadcast with a little Bible verse. So first we read about the devilish Jesuits here, and at the end of the coming paragraph, we will end with the Bible, and that will end our broadcast. So we end at least on a good and a godly and a Holy Spirit tone.
Mm-hmm.
So these Jesuits say, promises are not binding if, in making them, you have no intention of keeping them. The learning of Cardinal Bellarmine, another church doctor, the father of the liberation theory, or theology, liberation theology, the learning of Cardinal Bellarmine, moreover, has been added to the list of the Jesuit equivocators. Bellarmine, the Jesuit doctor, agrees wholeheartedly with the virtues of lying under oath. You have to understand that Bellarmine lived in the same time as Francisco Ribera, the father of futurism.
That's right.
Thus the Jesuits have confessed to lying and perjury, and have shown a surprising disregard for strict veracity and for telling the truth. We say to these Jesuits, habemus optimum testem confintem reum, means the confession of an accused is the best evidence against him. As Cardinal Fleury said, quote, it is a species of falsehood to tell the truth by halves, unquote. But it is common fare among the Jesuits to favor lies of expediency, if such advances their cause, the end justifies the means, as though their position were exceptional, and they stood above all men, with the right to use falsehood as a means to achieve that what they regard is a good end. In other words, the end justifies the means. You can use as many fancy words as you want to describe it, but it all comes down to the simple teaching: if the end is good, every means to achieve that end are good. The end justifies the means. That is the motto of the Jesuit order. That is why they can do regicide, legicide, torture, killing, raping, bribing, anything they want, if they get advantage to their goal, if they come closer to achieve their goal. The end justifies the means. Everything that I've just read here, this very fancy sentence, doesn't say anything else but that. That is the epitome of the motto of the Jesuits. They claim that even when confirmed with an oath, equivocation is no sin, because they say we do not deceive our neighbor, but allow him to deceive himself. Thus, how can we trust a Jesuit who sits as a judge, who sits as a magistrate, a justice of the Supreme Court or a juror, or who acts as an advisor to presidents and statesmen. As James Horner remarked, quote, I fear the Jesuits with all their plausibilities, even when they bring gifts. The point that P.D. Stewart makes here is so important that I hope you will understand it. But that's why I'm going to read this to you right now again. Thus, P.D. Stewart says, how can we trust a Jesuit who sits as a judge, a magistrate, a justice of the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court of the United States of America, consisting of 9 Supreme Justices. Not one of them is Protestant. They are all Catholic or Jews, and the Catholic ones are even members of the CFR, and by that they are Jesuit controlled, and at least 2 of them are even members of the secret society of the Jesuits called Opus Dei. Now, I'm not gonna go into that, what that means, but do your own research. What does it mean to be a member of Opus Dei? And when they are a member of a secret society within the Jesuits, they probably are Jesuits, aren't they? So P.D. Stewart's question is completely legitimate when he says, how can we trust a Supreme Court justice when he is a Jesuit? Doesn't that shake your trust in the United States Supreme Court? Doesn't that shake the trust in your Constitution that is undermined day by day by day? It is not a Protestant document. It is, like George W. Bush used to say, a GD piece of paper. And that's how they treat it. And that's how they treat you. So we were learning about how do Jesuits take an oath, what is mental reservation, what is equivocation, and that they can say whatever they want to say, because in their own words, promises are not binding if in making them you have no intention of keeping them. The Jesuits I fear with all their plausibilities, even when they bring gifts. This ends my part of the reading today, and now Brett will do a little Bible reading of Matthew 5, where the Bible tells us where we as Christians stand, how we understand an oath, how we understand swearing. You don't have to agree with that. I don't care. But the point is the Bible says it. And whether you are a Bible-believing Christian and you adhere to the Bible and the Bible alone, sola scriptura, or not, well, that is something that we see also, like with the results of the Jesuits. We will see it on your works. Your deeds and the fruits of your works will speak for who you adhere to.
That's right.
For an example, do not swear. If I ever come before a court in this earth and the judge tells me to swear, I will say, you have to take my yea for a yea and my nay for a nay, because my God forbids me to swear, and my God has an authority that is miles above your assumed authority. I do not swear. What does the Bible say, and how is the Bible being interpreted? Brett is going to say that in the closing of this broadcast. I, Jörg, say thank you very much for listening, for watching, for commenting, and if ever you have questions, then don't hesitate to contact nor me nor Brett. But do so, use all means that you have to reach us and get in touch with us, and we will always help you when it is within our power to do so. So thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'm gonna say already bye-bye, and I leave the rest up to Brett because he is great and doing a good finish to this video. Thanks, God bless you, bye-bye.
Yes, and thank you, Jörg, for closing that up with our reading for today from page 68. And now we are going to turn to the Bible, Matthew chapter 5, verse 33 through 37. And this portion is on oaths. And this is Jesus speaking here because these texts are in red. So Jesus says, "Again, ye have heard that it hath been said of them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil." And that ends our reading for today in Matthew chapter 5, and in the book Codeword Barbelon 666, Danger in the Vatican. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you next time. And goodbye for now. God bless. See you then.